Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Crowd Share Podcast. And today we start football. Yes, it's coming. It's not that far away anymore. So I figured, you know what? We got football season coming up. We got all this coming around the corner. So why not get into some preseason over-under predictions for college football? And since these conferences have a lot of teams in them now, I'm just going to go mostly with, I'm just going to go with the Power Four conferences now. I have to say Power Four because the Pac-12 doesn't really exist anymore. Um, I'm just going to go with the Power conferences here because going over every conference would take way too long. I also don't really have many weeks left, so doing the Power Four one every other week makes more sense. Of course, NFL divisions will come out every week, so you'll have that. You'll have that with this one as well. Both of those videos will be coming out, but it's not wasting any time. First, we're gonna go. So we're gonna go over every single schedule for every team that I have and that we have in the ACC. Go over the over under win total for the team, and then whether I think they'll go over what they have or over at or under that. Now, I'm getting this from what is a website called Vegas Insider. So I don't really know how like accurate this is, but this is what I'm using. So, take this however you will. That's just the one I'm on right now. But Boston College. Let's get into the Eagles of BC. I like my Eagles. As my former high school, which was pretty much a K through 12 school, former high school ended up essentially uses their logo, which is really cool. Um, so going over the Boston College Eagles, we have first at home the Fordham, at Michigan State, at Stanford, home to Cal, at Pittsburgh, home to Clemson, home to UConn, at Louisville, home to Notre Dame at or home to SMU as well, excuse me, at Georgia Tech, and then finishing the year at Syracuse. Over under for the Boston College Eagles is set at 4.5. So more or less, do I think this team will either a get very close to a bowl game or b uh, get a bowl game? And I certainly think they can. I don't think this is a terrible Boston College team. I think they can certainly, obviously they can beat. I think they can beat UConn. They can beat a Fordham. I don't know about Michigan State on the road. That'll be a tough one, but anything's really possible. They could certainly be Cal. Stanford's not a good team either. Maybe they get the better of a Syracuse, or they get an upset. I certainly think they could manage 6 wins out of this, but at the very least, I think they'll get 5. So I'm gonna go with over for this team. I think there's a very good chance of them hitting the over. I don't know. I'll put it in here somewhere. I don't really have like a designated spot for it. I'll just say I went over. What was it, 4.5? Yeah, 4.5. I'll put it somewhere. Um, I'll probably have to find another spot for that, but I'll go over 4.5 for Boston College. Probably 5 wins, but we'll see. I'm not going to take too much time with these because we have 18 teams to go over. And I'm including Notre Dame in here because they mostly play ACC teams. So there are 18 teams to go over. I am not taking a ton of time on these. I'm going through them very quickly. Uh, Cal Golden Bears. Let's just get into that schedule. At Oregon State, home to Texas Southern Minnesota. At San Diego State and Boston College, home to Duke before they get their first bye. There are 2 byes this year because the season's kind of starting a little early. So everybody gets 2 byes or 3 if you play on week 0. So home to Duke, get their first bye, then have a home game against North Carolina. At Virginia Tech, home to Virginia, at Louisville, at Stanford, and then home to SMU. Over under for Cal sits at 6.5. Okay, yeah, I don't think they're hitting that. They lost their quarterback from last season. He transferred away to what is it? He transferred away to Illinois. Um, they have a, you know, decent team, but I going over 6.5. I mean, maybe they get 6 wins. Maybe. I can't imagine this team uh hits 7 wins though. I don't see it for them. Maybe, like I said, maybe 6 wins. Maybe they get 6-6. I could certainly, imagine that one. But 7-5, I think, is wishful thinking. So I'll go under 6.5 for them. That's an easy call for me. And then next we have a really big one, the Clemson Tigers. This is obviously the creme de la creme of the ACC. Over under for well, actually, hold on. I'm gonna go through the schedule. And they have a banger of a week 1 game. They'll be at home taking on another Tigers, that being LSU. Huge game there between some top NFL prospects there at quarterback. Then you got Troy. You take a road trip to Georgia Tech until you get back home to take on Syracuse before you get your first bye. You have road games against North Carolina and Boston College. Then you'll have another big game at home against SMU, ACC championship rematch there before they get their next bye. Then they'll stay home to take on both Duke and Florida State. Big one there with Florida State. They'll go on the road to take on the Louisville Cardinals. Then they'll get their freebie home game against Furman until they finish off the year against their arch rivals of South Carolina in Columbia. And that's not the country, that's really just the city that South Carolina Gamecocks are located in. So over under for Clemson sits at 9. Sits at just 9. Um, Certainly think they're gonna get at least 10 out of this, so I'm gonna go over for Clemson. This is a good team. I do think that Clemson should have a good season. They're well coached by Dabo Sweeney, but he also does have a lot of talent. And I think Cade Klubnik is really starting to come into his own. The LSU game will be very telling of Clemson's season, as well as LSU. But this is an SEC game, or this isn't an SEC video. But that LSU game will be very telling for both teams. How the season for the two of them will go. Huge game for the both of them. Really excited for that one too. That should be highly entertaining. That's a 7:30 ABC game. That is must-watch television. Garrett Musnire versus Cade Klubnik will be cinema. We have the Duke Blue Devils coming up next. And we have first they take on Elan before they get two big non-conference games. First being home to Illinois and then on the road against Tulane. Then they'll start their conference slate with NC State and then NC State at home with 2 road games against Syracuse and Cal. 2 buys coming up then after that with Georgia Tech sandwiched in between. At Clemson and UConn, back home to take on the Cavaliers of Virginia. At North Carolina and then home to Wake Forest. Their over-under sits at 5.5. Duke has lost a lot. They don't really have the same team that they once did. They did lose a couple guys I think from last season. They did bring in Malik Murphy from Texas. Um, and he did pretty well last year for the Duke Blue Devils, which gave him, I think, a decent year, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't remember necessarily what the record was. I think it was solid. I just don't remember how good. Um, but for Duke, this is, I think, a decent team. They certainly have. I mean, they're not, a pushover. I wouldn't say they're necessarily like, whoa, really good or something like that. But this isn't a pushover, and it's not gonna. They're not gonna make it easy for you. You're gonna have to work for it. So, I don't think this is an awful. I don't think this is a great team. But, over under was set at 5.5. I think that's honestly a pretty good number for them. I'll go over. I'll give them 6 wins. I think they can at least become bowl eligible. Malik Murphy was very good for them, like I said. So, I could certainly see. Oh, yeah, they went 9-4 last year. I could certainly see Malik Murphy carrying them to another good year, and getting them at least enough wins to get them to that 6-6 mark. Of course, the Illinois and Tulane games do make it difficult. but I think 6 wins is at least achievable for the Blue Devils. Give me the over for good old Duke. Next, we have Florida State. And this is one I really. There's always so much hype with Florida State. Let's get into the schedule, though. They start with a huge home game against the Roll Tide of Alabama, then have East Texas A&M at home, along with Kent State after their first bye. First road game at Virginia, then two more home games with Miami, Florida, and Pitt. Back on the road to take on Stanford before their next bye. Then they'll get Wake Forest at home, Clemson on the road, Virginia Tech also at home, and then finish the year on the road with NC State and their arch rivals, Florida. Their other arch rival, that is. Their over-under is set at 9.5. No chance. I don't understand the fascination over Florida State. For them to be higher on the over under than Clemson to me is insane. Again, this is Vegas Insider. I don't know anything about betting, so I just looked up, over under win totals for the ACC. I found Vegas Insider. I figured that was a pretty good site to go to. I don't know if DraftKings has anything or what was the other one, FanDuel or any of those. Again, I don't bet. I'm not a betting man because who the heck knows? And I like my money. So, I'm just going off of what this site says. Other ones might be different. This is just what Vegas Insider is telling me, and it has 9.5. I'm assuming that this is um current. I'm assuming. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know what the because I don't really know if this is like old data or if this is this year. But I'm assuming it is because it says 2025. So I'm assuming that this is literally legitimately for this year. So I'm just going again. I'm just going off of what this has. But definitely under 9.5 for Florida State. I don't trust this team for a second. Yeah, they got transfers. Yeah, they got some recruits, but to expect 9 wins, I think, is very overzealous. Next is Georgia Tech. And they got a really fun first game of the year as they'll go to Boulder to take on Colorado in the Deion Sanders show. Then they'll get at home. Then they'll be home for 3 straight games, taking on Gardner Webb, Clemson, and Temple before they head on the road against Wake before their first bye. And then they'll get Virginia Tech at home, Duke on the road, Syracuse at home, NC State on the road before their next bye. And then we'll get Boston College on the road, finishing the year with the Pitt Panthers at home, and then their arch rivals of the Georgia Bulldogs in a neutral site game actually at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Technically, Georgia Tech is in Atlanta, so that's not necessarily that much of a neutral site, but it's technically also not their home field, so they consider it a neutral site. Um, First, Georgia Tech, they have an over/under set at 5.5. I don't know. Georgia Tech showed a lot last year. They looked really, really impressive. 7-6 for them. They had a pretty good season. I mean, they really did play well. I mean, you got guys like Haynes King, who I think is actually still around. I don't think he left, so he should still be there. Their running back, I believe, also is still there. Yeah, they got a lot of the guys from last year still around. Yeah, give me over. Absolutely. I mean, 5.5. They can certainly reach 6-6. I don't doubt that. Um, a lot of guys, like I said, from last year who are still there. Yeah, give me the over for Georgia Tech. Absolutely. For 5.5, I definitely trust that. That's an easy one for me. I do like that. That's a good one. Uh, that'll be a good one. Next we have the Louisville Cardinals. Uh, they start off with Eastern Kentucky at home, along with James Madison and Bowling Green, with the bye before Bowling Green. At Pitt as their first rival, or as their first road game before taking on Virginia back at home. Their next bye And then they got a lot more games to finish the year. At Miami, Florida, home to Boston College, at Virginia Tech, home to Cal and Clemson, at SMU, and then home to arch rivals Kentucky. Over under for them is set at 8.5. Uh, uh, yeah. Maybe. That's a tough one. Because I certainly could see them maybe gain 9 wins. Maybe. But I think it's more likely that you see an 8-4. I think they'll have a good season. It's no longer the Tyler Shook show or Tyler Show. No, it is not. It's not Tyler Show. I think it's Tyler Shook or whatever it was. Tyler is something. He's no longer there. They also lost a couple other guys. I'm gonna go under. I think under's a safer pick here. I think probably an 8-4 is more obtainable for Louisville. Now, obviously, I'm not including the bowl game there because they could win the bowl game, go 9-4. But I'm really just going for regular season here, not necessarily like counting on who they're gonna play in the bowl game because I don't know who they're gonna play. Um, so under 8-5, or I'm sorry, under 8.5. I think 8-4 is probably realistic for Louisville. Solid team. I just don't think they're necessarily going to be, you know, a dynamite force. Speaking of teams I don't think will be necessarily a dynamite force, Miami, Florida. Boy, do they have some bangers to start off the year. Notre Dame at home right off the bat. Let's really get it going. That'll be the Labor Day night game. Or no, it's a Sunday night game before Labor Day. And then Georgia Tech playing Colorado was also a Friday game, so a lot of games playing everywhere. It should be fun. Bethune Cookman, I feel like I've heard that name before, but they're week 2. USF then next, and then one of their arch rivals, the Florida Gators, will finish off their 4-game home stretch to start the year before they'll get 2 byes with their other arch rival of Florida State on the road, sandwiched in between. Home games against Louisville and Stanford, at SMU, home games again to Syracuse and NC State, and then finish the year on the road with Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh, or Pitt. Over under for Miami sits at 9 games. So really just 9 for Miami. Of course, the big headline for the Hurricanes is the arrival of Carson Beck from Georgia. Not sure how much of an improvement that is. You lost Cam Ward. Kind of hard to replace that. I don't think Carson Beck really replaces that. Um, I think Miami will be solid this year. I'm sure they'll have a solid year, but to expect them to be like, 10, 11 wins, I don't think is realistic. Um, I could say just that they draw and they go 9-3 because I think that is pretty accurate for them. I don't remember how you'd say that. So like stay or something or just push. That's what it is. I'll go push. I'll say 9-3 because it's literally directly at 9. So I'll say push at 9. Um, they'll go 9. I think 9-3 is probably pretty fair. SMU could be an L. Notre Dame could be an L. Florida State and Florida. Oh, I don't know about Florida State. Florida could be an L. There's a couple games I think they certainly could have some problems with. So yeah, I'll push 9 there. I think that's pretty easy. Um, here's a fun team to go over: North Carolina. Yeah. North Carolina. They start off the year with 3 home games. TCU in a Monday night Labor Day game should be fun. Charlotte and Richmond at UCF. Then they got 2 byes with Clemson sandwiched in between at home. Then you got at Cal, home to Virginia, at Syracuse, home to Stanford, at Wake Forest, home to Duke, and at NC State. Their over-under is at 7.5. It is now the Bill Belichick show in UNC. That is so weird to say. North Carolina kind of had a troublesome year last year. They went 6-6, then they lost the bowl game, went 6-7. It was the last year with what's his name from Texas, Mac Brown. He ended up leaving. They lost to Marion Hampton, obviously, so that is a huge loss for them. I don't know who really actually is returning for them. I think they probably do have some transfers coming in. They're a decent team. Um, 7.5 though for North Carolina, I think is overzealous. Listen. I'm not big on the whole Bill Belichick coming to North Carolina thing, and don't ask me to go into the whole thing with his girlfriend. That's just that whole thing's just weird. We don't need to talk about that. There's no need to talk about whatever all that's about. But 7.5. Yeah, I'll go under that for sure. Maybe it's just because the Bill Belichick shows is kind of weird, but I'm not big in UN. I'm not big on UNC this year. I'll go under 7.5. Probably 6-6 is probably fair. Maybe 7-5, but 6-6 probably more realistic. Let's do their arch rivals now of NC State. They got home games to start off the year with ECU and Virginia at Wake Forest and Duke. Then they get back home again to Virginia Tech and Campbell. Then they go on the road to take on Notre Dame, get a bye, then go back on, then they're on, still on the road to take on Pitt. Back home to Georgia Tech, another bye at Miami, Florida, and then finish off the year at home against Florida State and North Carolina. NC State's over under is at 8.5. What? Wait, really? Wait a minute. Hold on. Weren't they like bad last year? At least I thought they were. Where are they? Yeah, 6-7. Why are they 8.5? What? Who did they get? I don't even. Wow. Okay. So 8.5 for NC State. I am a little flabbergasted by that one because I have no clue who they ended up getting. I don't know if they got like a transfer or what, but I don't know of anything that this NC State team really even owns. So, um, yeah, that's a confusing one. Uh, so I'm definitely gonna go under. I, again, I don't really pay a ton of attention to like every single ACC team. I mean, I know a little bit about them. I know a little bit about what there is to know, obviously, but I'm not incredibly knowledgeable. But 8.5, 8.8.5 is I think a really high number for NC State. But we'll find out, I guess. Pitt Panthers. Pitt Panthers. They went 7-6 last year, had an average season. Uh, they have Duquesne and Central Michigan to start off the year at home, and then they have some big rivals of West Virginia on the road week 3. Then they get their bye, and they have a long stretch of games here. Louisville, Boston College, both at home, on the road against Florida State and Syracuse, back home to NC State, at Stanford, and then at Stanford, get a bye, and then they get North Carolina or Notre Dame, excuse me, at home, at Georgia Tech, and then finish the year with the Hurricanes at home. Pitt Panthers are sitting at 5.5 for the season over under. Um, Pitt's a ordinary team. I don't think they're terrible. I don't think they're really that terrible. I think 5.5 is very obtainable. I think 6-6 is certainly within reach. I think they might be better than that too. They had a freshman QB last year who looked pretty good. He ended up getting hurt, I think, at one point, but he was looking pretty sharp. Transfer from Alabama. Certainly a player. Um, See if they continue, but 6-6, I think is certainly within reach. More than that, I think pretty obtainable. Stanford Cardinal. Like I said, I'm going through these fast because this is a lot of teams. I don't want to take a ton of time with this. And Stanford Cardinal. Yeah, Cardinal. They don't really do. They don't do plural for that. I had to think about it. No, they don't do plural. Stanford Cardinal. This is a rough one. They got at Hawaii in week 0. They're one of the few teams they actually play week 0, so they'll have 3 byes this year. But they're at Hawaii on the road. Don't really know why they decided to go all the way to Hawaii week 0, but their choice. And then they get a bye the next week, probably to travel back from Hawaii. Then they are still on the road to take on BYU. Interesting game there. Finally get their first home game against Boston College at Virginia, and then home to San Jose State before what will be their second bye because they'll have 3 of them. Uh, at SMU, home to Florida State, at Miami, Florida, home to Pitt, at North Carolina. And then the final and last bye until finishing the year at home against both arch rivals Cal and Notre Dame. Over under for the Stanford Cardinals sits at a measly 3.5. So obviously not many expectations for Stanford this year. Um, don't really blame them because they really just lost their only good like receiver to the NFL. So I don't really know what else is left for them. I, you know what? They said 3.5. They were 3-9 last year. Frank Reich is now the head coach, believe it or not, for Stanford, ex NFL man. Um, I'm trying to look here, see what the schedule has. Yeah, you know what? I'll go under. I'll say probably 3-9 again. That's fine. Um, that's a good one. That's a good number there. I think that's pretty fair. 3-5, 3.5. I think is a fair number for Stanford. That they did a good they did a good job that time. SMU, what a year for them it was last season, and they might even continue that this year. We shall see. First, they have home games to East Texas A&M. I saw that's them. There they are again. East Texas A&M and Baylor, which should be a bigger game for them. Then we'll be at Missouri State and as well as rival TCU before their first bye of the year. Syracuse and Stanford both at home. Clemson, Wake both on the road. Home to Miami at Boston College. Then their last bye before taking Louisville on at home and Cal on the road to finish the year. SMU sits at where is SMU? There they are. SMU sits at 9 for over under. Um, this is a good team. Are they going with is 9 going to be enough? Can they go 10-2? I think Clemson's probably a pretty easy loss. So is Louisville, or not Louisville. So is Miami, Florida. I don't think they would win that one. Uh, Probably Louisville. Maybe even the TCU. Yeah, I'm gonna. I think no. I gotta go under. I don't. I don't really trust it. I mean, it's 9. I could go push, but that's taking a chance. I think 8 wins is probably more obtainable. SMU is a solid team. I mean, I think they'll have a good season, but the question is, how good will it be? I mean, they did lose some guys, of course. I mean, everybody does, but they did lose some players. They still have their quarterback, which is the biggest part. I mean, they still have Kevin Jennings, so that'll be a huge. That's a huge piece that they're able to keep. But we'll see how things go for SMU as the year progresses. But is their running back? No, their running back's gone. Yeah, their running back from last year. We had a really good season. He's no longer with them. He moved on to the NFL. So, um, yeah, I think 8 wins is probably right for them. Oh wow, they still have a lot more to go. My gosh. Uh, Next is Syracuse. Now they had a really good season last year. They went 10-3. So we'll see how things go from this year. Um, I think it could be a little tough just based off of what they're losing. Uh, but again, we'll see. They first start off with a neutral site game at Mercedes-Benz Stadium against Tennessee. Then home to UConn and Colgate, toothpaste. Before getting Clemson on the road, Duke at home, SMU on the road. Then they'll get their first bye of the year. Pitt at home, Georgia Tech on the road, North Carolina at home, Miami on the road, their last bye at Notre Dame, and then home to Boston College. They're over under. Okay, that's reasonable. Sits at 7. I thought it would be a little bit higher considering their last season, but no, never mind. Nope, they're sitting at 7. They just have it at 7. That makes sense. That's honestly sounds like pretty legit. And holy dang it, that makes it really tough. Now I don't know what to do. um, yeah, that's gonna be really tough. I think Syracuse has a decent 7 games makes it tough, man. That's a good one. I dang it, they made that one tough. I'll go under. I guess. I don't know. I don't really know what to do with that. I'll go under, I guess. I'll say 6-6 is what they end up being. I think that's fair. I have no idea though. I'll go with I'll go 6-6. Her. Um so yeah, I'll go 6-6 for them. That's the best I can come up with. Next, we have Virginia. How many of these darn teams do I have left? God, good grief! Come on. Um, we'll go with Virginia. We got Virginia, Coastal Carolina. Will start off the year from at home at North. Or I'm sorry, at yeah. Well, yes, at NC State, William and Mary, Stanford, Florida State, all at home at Louisville. Then they get their first bye. Washington State at home. That's a really random game at North Carolina and Cal, home to Wake Forest, at Duke, and then their final bye of the year before getting arch rivals Virginia Tech at home. Virginia's over under sits at 4.5. This is a bad team. I don't really expect too much for them. Uh, I mean, maybe they can. I mean, 4 wins, sure. Don't don't expect more than that. Yeah, I'll go. I'll go under 4.5. I does this is not a good team. This is a pretty quick one, I think. Virginia, it's tough sledding for them. I'll go under for the Cavaliers. Next we have Virginia Tech. Now this is a team that has been a little bit better. They were 6-7 last year. They got to the bowl game. I think they ended up losing it to somebody. Don't remember who. Um, but Virginia Tech, the Hokies, they start off the year. Oh yeah, that guy. Is he still around? Yes, he is. Okay. Um, but they start off the year with another neutral site game. They'll also, I think this will be Sunday. They'll go at Mercedes Benz, take on South Carolina before they'll then get Vanderbilt, Old Miss, or Old, not Old Miss, Old Dominion, and Wofford all at home. Before they'll then take on NC State on the road as their first road game, home to Wake Forest, at Georgia Tech, two byes with Cal and Louisville home games sandwiched in between, at Florida State, home to Miami, and at Virginia, arch rivals, of course, to finish off the season. Their over-under's a little ambitious. They are sitting at 8.5. Uh, I mean, Caleb Jones had a decent year last year. Don't get me wrong. I mean, when they put him in, he played pretty well, but uh, I don't know about 9 wins. That's a bit too much for my blood. I don't trust that at all. I'll go under 8.5 for the Hokies. I just don't. I don't see it. That's a bit too much. That's too many wins. No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll give him a shot, of course, but that's a tough one. I don't know about that. And then I think we have our last technically ACC team. Yeah, we do. Technically the last ACC team because I'm also gonna do Notre Dame as part of this, but not really ACC. It does play a lot of ACC teams because they're like scheduling agreement thing, but it doesn't make sense to do Notre Dame here because they mostly play ACC teams. So I just do it that way. Wake Forest though is the actual last ACC team. Um, they'll have Kennesaw State, Western Carolina, and NC State to start off the year at home before the first bye, and also have Georgia Tech at home before having a road slate against Virginia Tech and Oregon State, along with Florida State and Virginia, with SMU and a bye sandwiched in between. Then North Carolina, Delaware both come home to Wake, and then they'll finish the year on the road against the Duke Blue Devils. Wake Forest over under sits at 4.5. This is also not really that good of a team. They did have Hank Bachmeyer last year. I don't remember that. Is he still around? I guess he is. It's not saying he's gone. Um, but this is not the best of teams. It's also not the worst. Eh, give me give me 5-7, sure. I think they can certainly at least reach that. I've got a lot of teams over, or I'm sorry, not over. I've got a lot of teams under, so 5-7 is probably fair for them. Give me 5-7. Now we'll get our last team here, Notre Dame, and yeah, this is obviously a big one. So I gotta find where the heck they have Notre Dame on here. I'm sure it's probably a really high over under. Oh yeah, there it is. But Notre Dame, pretty loaded schedule here. They have on the road against Miami, Florida. We already mentioned that. Then they get their first bye of the year. Then they'll get Texas A&M as well at home, Purdue at home, at Arkansas, home to Boise State, another banger of a game. NC State, USC also at home. Their other bye, as well as Boston College on the road, Navy at home, at Pittsburgh, home to Syracuse, and then at Stanford. Their over-under is 10.5. I mean, this is a really good team. They lost a couple guys, obviously, to the NFL, maybe even the transfer portal, but Notre Dame's pretty darn good. And they obviously made it to the championship game last year. Lost to darn Ohio State. They could not have done that. But also, I really would want either one of those teams to be there. So, I mean, pick your poison. Um, this is a team. They got CJ Carr coming in as the freshman. We'll see if they roll with him. Jeremiah Love is still around and as a dynamite running back. They still got some pretty good play pieces. They've lost some guys as well, but they've still got a lot of dudes over there who can certainly play. So we'll see how it goes for Notre Dame. But with Jeremiah Love still hanging around, I think they gotta be. I'm thinking they gotta be pretty good this year. 10.5 is a high number, but I'll give it to them. I'll go over 10.5. I think they can do it. It seems like the Marcus Freeman era in it seems like the Marcus Freeman era in Notre Dame is honestly going pretty well. Uh 10.5 tough number because I want to go under, but I mean, other really than the one loss here, who are they losing to? Texas A&M? I don't know about that. So we'll see with Notre Dame, but I'm thinking they're going to have a pretty darn good season. So will Clemson, and that does it really for the ACC. Well, I guess the ACC and Notre Dame. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll have NFL videos coming out soon. Maybe tonight, maybe some other day. I'm running out of time, so I'll probably have to do it some other time. That's it for me, though. Until next time, guys. Adios, everyone.